Alright, so today we're going over raw types, backward compatibility. A generic class or interface used without specifying a concrete type is called a raw type. It enables backward compatibility with earlier versions of Java, so you can use a generic class without specifying a concrete type, such as the following. You have a generic stack, and this new generic stack is a raw type. This is roughly equivalent to a generic stack object, and this new generic stack object, right? We have a generic class, which is a generic stack and an array list used without a type. So in this case, we have an example Max Java. We have these two types here, comparable O1 and comparable O2. If we reset this, you see that it will prompt us for filling out the method stub here. And since we want to use raw types here, we're going to make these declarations into comparable O1 and comparable O2. That's the answer. So comparable O1 and comparable O2 are raw type declarations. So you want to be careful because these raw types are unsafe. So for example, you might invoke the max method using max welcome 23, and this is auto boxed into an integer object. This would cause a runtime error because you cannot compare a string with an integer object. The Java compiler displays a warning on line 3 when compiled with the option -excellent unchecked. So this is a command line parameter that you can pass into the Java compiler. You can see here we're running a Java C excellent unchecked max Java, and it says that there's a warning. This value is being called here. So a better way to write the max method is to use a generic type as given in the previous example. So we can use this generic type here. This is the generic return type that we have here specified for these two parameters. The return value is a comparable type, so you're still returning a comparable value. The difference is this is a comparable type and it's generic, so this could be anything, so we don't run into these runtime errors. So now if you invoke the max method using welcome, a compiler error will be displayed because of the arguments of the max method using the max of the max method and using max using generic type. So another example in the following code, you can declare a raw type stack in line 1. Okay, so here we're defining a new raw type stack and we're saying welcome to Java, integer value of 2, and pushing that in. So what is a raw type? Why is the raw type unsafe? Why is the raw type allowed in Java? So if we go back up here, the raw type definition. So these are raw type declarations. They're unsafe because they cause a issue if we pass in a parameter that doesn't match the value that we're expecting. Why is the raw type allowed in Java? This is because of an earlier version of Java. So we can go ahead and show the answer. When you're using a generic type without specifying an actual parameter, it's called a raw type. A raw type is unsafe because some errors cannot be detected by the compiler. The raw type is allowed in Java for backward compatibility. What is the syntax to declare an array list reference variable using a raw type and assign a raw type array list to it? So just an array list equals new array list. Which of the following declarations can use a raw type? We have an array list object list, array list string list, new array list integer list, new array list, new array list. So which of these following declarations use a raw type? If you use the Java C-excellent uncheck command to compile a program that contains a raw type, what would the compiler do? Okay, so this excellent uncheck command to compile compile a Java program that contains a raw type, what would the compiler do? If we go up here, so this would cause a runtime error. The Java compiler displays a warning when compiled with -excellent unchecked.